My sister-in-law and her husband are not my favorite people in the world. Recently they have been couch surfing as they lost their home. They emotionally manipulated my husband to let them in my house. I agreed to it on the condition that she and her husband as well as their children keep the place clean, because in the past the only place they are messy in is my home. They are not like this to other houses. For example, if they are throwing something into the kitchen bin, they will throw it in the general direction of it and not in the actual bin. It's extra gross when it's food stuff that dries up and stinks out the place. Similar things happened in the past where she would leave her sanitary towels on top of the bin lid in the bathroom instead of in the bin. Before they moved in, I made the younger brother and my parents-in-law's witnesses to them agreeing to keeping my house as clean as it is and to chip in with chores. If they broke the rules they would be out immediately. She fussed and denied past wrongdoings but said, "As you wish, Your Highness," sarcastically. The first 5 days were smooth sailing. This morning I found a sanitary towel on top of the bin and not even wrapped properly. That is not all. Her daughter is staying in my daughter's room and she made a mess of the shampoo and conditioner in her bathroom and had left a tampon on the side of the sink, forgetting it from last night. Her husband leaves early for work and the kitchen was a mess when I finally got downstairs. I have a curious toddler and I don't want him to pick up a bloodied sanitary towel. I knocked on the guest room and told her to pack her poop and get out. She looked angry and tried to play innocent. She said it was only some blood and to chuck it in the bin if it bothered me so much. I told her no and picked up her suitcase, throwing their stuff in it. At first she wouldn't leave the house, saying she was going to wait for her brother as she doesn't take orders from me, but I told her this house belongs to me too. I dropped her and her youngest ones off at my in-laws. A few hours ago her husband came back from work and when I wouldn't let him and he made a scene. He went to my in-laws, but they don't want them there due to father-in-law illness. When my husband returned from work, my in-laws turned up in our driveway with her and her family within 20 minutes. They are still standing outside and squabbling about being let in. I refused to open the door and told my husband if he backs down he isn't welcome in our home either. They are currently at my in-laws, but they made a promise to return to discuss the matter tomorrow as everyone will be home from work and that way we could all find a workable solution. When my husband got inside I told him that I would not have them in my house. I told him that he could clean up after them, which he did. After cleaning up he asked me why I made him do that. I told him I was just as grossed out over other people's bodily fluids as he was, and unlike him I wasn't biologically related to them. So if he found it unsavory, imagine how I felt in the past cleaning up after them. He promised to buy a new bin and bleach the sink 3 times. Our strategy for tomorrow is that under no circumstances are they coming to live with us. Update. We went early to get it over and done with. My in-laws started with the guilt trip first. They mentioned that they would take them in until they found a place, but due to father-in-law diabetes it wouldn't be good for his health. I told them to tell their daughter to parent her children so they wouldn't run around amok like monkeys. That way they could stay with them as they have spare bedrooms. That didn't land well with sister-in-law. She went on a tirade of how I have always been jealous of her and that I was trying to drive a wedge between her and her brother. I told her she didn't like her own life, so me being jealous of her and her life was a stretch that required suspension of reality. She asked my husband if he was okay with me telling him what to do with his family as he always stays out of my family's business. She told him to lay down the law and tell me that sister and her family would stay as long as it took them to find a new place to stay. My husband was having none of that. He told her that the house was mine just as much his and it was a 2 yes and 1 no deal. Just because I was stay at home now didn't mean that I didn't contribute to buying the house when I was working. They told me to suck it up and act like family. I told them I wasn't there to argue about her cleanliness as I saw what I saw and her brother was witness to it and had to clean it up. He confirmed that he did and that I wasn't making it up. My sister-in-law slipped up and said, "Why did you clean it up?" to her brother, because according to her, I was meant to clean it up. Either she is the dumbest bitch alive to admit it or she knows she has the whole family in her pocket. Either way I made it clear she wasn't going to stay with me and because she got along much better with everyone else in the family they would figure out something around their own lives. My husband told his niece that she was old enough to clean up the remaining mess, but she said no. Her father jumped in and said, "She is just your niece, she's my daughter. Don't you dare tell her what to do." It got heated between them so they both had to walk it off. I told her and her husband that the only reason me and my husband were there was to get money back for the bin we had to throw out due to her sprinkling biohazards around the house. She laughed in my face and said it would never happen. I said fine. I hope you realize that when I threw you out I didn't pack all your belongings. I still had her daughter's Switch, her husband's and her 2 younger ones' tablets and some of her jewelry, and a few other bit and pieces as it all happened so quickly that day. It would all be sold to recuperate my cost. We left, but she was yelling loudly about what she would do to me if I dared to sell anything. My husband has my back and he said go ahead and sell whatever you need to. Later on they kept texting my husband to do them one last favor by putting up with her for a few months until she got back on her feet. I told him that no matter what I wouldn't agree to let her slobby husband and her horde of children back in. They texted me too, guilting me about his niece's education. With no place to stay close to her school she might have to start at another school if they get a rental which isn't in the school zone. I texted back tough luck and blocked them.
My unhinged wife confessed that she wanted to replace me as my mother's child, so I filed for divorce after she gave me an ultimatum. My mom and dad were both orphans. My dad died 2 weeks before I was born. My mom didn't really have a support system, so we were just the two of us. She did all the little jobs possible so that we didn't miss anything. She deprived herself of food to give me food. I had very good clothes while she had none. I saw her make sacrifices again and always with a smile. Frankly, I always thought she was an angel dressed in a human body. The only time she yelled at me was when I was 16 when I saw her getting sick and working at the same time. I wanted to help her by finding a job, but she was angry and told me it was not my job to take care of her and it was up to her to take care of me. She wanted me to get really good grades to get into the best universities. It's the only way I can protect myself when she can't anymore. Even at university, she didn't want me to work. I had to be focused on my studies, but she wanted me to volunteer, so that I could be an adult who could do something with his hands. I met my wife there while both of us were volunteering. My wife is a good person, but she was never close to her parents or her siblings. Yet she adored my mother since she met her. There were times when I thought she loved my mother more than she loved me and we laughed about it. Deep down, I think she was looking for the bond between mother and daughter that she did not have from her mother. When I finished my studies, I found a job, and we moved in together, but she wasn't comfortable that I called my mom every day. Remind you, those were 10 to 15-minute calls. But eventually she stops. Bring it on. 2 years later I bought a house for my mother because we never had a house in our name. We lived from apartment to apartment. So for all the sacrifices she made, it was for me the least of it, and it was non-negotiable. That's where the problem started with my wife. She wanted me to think about us first. I told her my dream had always been to buy my mom a house since I was little, and that's what I had to do. But she complained about it to my mom. My mom didn't even know I bought a house for her, as it was supposed to be a surprise for her birthday. She was uncomfortable with receiving the house because of my wife and told me that wasn't necessary, that we could use it for us when we get married. I was furious. I told my mother that the house was for her and that she could do it whatever she wanted, but it was time for her to think about herself first. Our couple survived that. We got married and then we had our own house. Our life was going well until 2 months ago when my mother fell ill. I wanted her to come and live with us so that I could take care of her, but my wife didn't want to. I then decided to rent an apartment with my own money right next to our house so that I could be close to her and go there to take care of her. But even that idea didn't sit well with my wife. Me and my wife don't have children yet. We both work. I usually come home at 6 p.m. But since my mother is sick, I go to see her and come home at 8 p.m. 2 days ago. She told me that she thought about it and she thinks I prioritize my mother too much. She told me that I had to choose between my mother and the life I wanted to build with her. The truth is that I never made her feel that way. We both work, but I'm the one who cooks, and I pay a person to do the housework. I make sure I do the dishes she likes. She doesn't even know what I like to eat because I never complain. I run her baths, give her massages, and flowers. I write her poems that I hide somewhere in the house for her to find out. We go on a trip 1 weekend a month. I earn much more money than her. I told her to keep her money for herself, and I take care of all the bills, even hers. I always make sure to listen to her and consider her opinion. And I think I'm easygoing because I can change my mind to accommodate hers. But I realize that she tries to completely dominate me, and the only subject where I don't give her a choice is my relationship with my mother. So there, I'm going to have a talk with her and put some very clear boundaries. If she doesn't want to, well, we're going to divorce. Update: I wanted to know if there was another reason why she gave me this ultimatum. And she replied that nope. I asked her, apart from what she blamed me for, was there something she wanted to tell me but couldn't tell me? She said there was nothing and asked me to come to the point, so I told her I wanted a divorce. She remained frozen. I think she was shocked because she wasn't talking. She was just staring at me. I told her everything that was on my mind, that our values are too different. She still didn't say anything, so I told her I was going to a hotel for now and we'd discuss later how we were going to separate. I took some of my things and left. The next day when I went to see my mother, she figured out something wasn't right, but I was not going to tell her I was separating from my wife because she could not bear our relationship, especially since she was sick like that. I didn't want to add more torment to her. My mom ended up telling me that my wife didn't come by that day. Yes, my wife, who asked me to reduce my contact with my mother, was seeing her every day. She calls my mother mom. When she got sick, she used to go to my mother so she would take care of her. It used to hurt me because it was as if I couldn't take care of her. But she said that this was not the same. The attentions of a mother are different. I told myself that it was her way of creating a mother-daughter bond that she never had, and I understood her. When my mom told me she didn't come to see her that day, I went back home because I was worried. I found her in the bathroom with her clothes and red eyes, like she was crying all along. Seeing her like that was unbearable. I helped her out. But this woman, who has so much pride, collapsed in front of me with a lot of crying. I don't know if it was an hour or two, but she kept crying, calmed down, crying again. I just stayed silent. She ended up telling me that deep down she never wanted me to be involved any less in my mother's life. She was always jealous of our relationship. She was always jealous of the attention my mother gave to me. She knows that it wasn't rational, but she couldn't help constantly striving to be number one in my mother's heart. It was kind of a competition for her. So when I wanted to take care of my mom, she didn't want me to be the one taking care of her. I was honestly furious without saying anything, of course, but I wondered if she was a psychopath or something. We are talking about a person who is seriously ill, and she is thinking about her competition, even if it means sabotaging the relationship I have with my mother and putting us in a situation where I wanted to divorce her. She told me that she was very jealous of me and that she would have liked to be in my place. If she had to choose, she would have even chosen to be my mother's child rather than my wife, even if I was the love of her life. At that moment, I did not know what else to say. I was hooked on this idea of competition, so I did not immediately grasp the scope of these words, but I still listened to her to the end. I put her to bed until she fell asleep. Then I went to sleep in another room. In the morning, she was acting like anything happened. She was being herself. She said, "I don't have to pity." I told her it was out of love. She was still my wife. She left to work and I did the same, but decided to stay at the hotel for the time being. I'm not going to stay with her. It's not possible.